Krishna Shri Krishna. That's a different tune. Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Doya Koro. Or do you want to start the tune and I'll follow you? Do you want? Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Doya Koro More Tanya Prabhu Doya Koro More Toma Bina Ke Doyalo Jagata Samsare Pachita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatara Tava Avatara Mosama Pachita Prabhu Napaibe Ara Aha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balakana Koro Ami Boro Duki Gana Koro Doya Koro Sita Pachi Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Bhale Pai Chaitanya Nitai Aha Swarup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Bhatta Juga Shri Jiva Prabhu Kanata Prabhu Lokana Doya Koro Shri Acharya Prabhu Shri Nivasa Acharya Prabhu Shri Nivasa Ramachandra Sangamage Narottamadaasa Gamage Narottamadaasa Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Doya Koro More Nya Prabhu Tabina Ke Doyalo Jagata Samsare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraja Kacharya Stutara Shata Shishimati Danji Goswami Abhay Chandravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jal Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivraja Kacharya Stutara Shata Shishimati Danji Goswami Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Caitanya caritamrta Grantha Raja Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Guru Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Guru Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Reading from Sri Caitanya caritamrta, second chapter of the Adi lila. The chapter is entitled Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, verses 19 and 20. Ananta spatikeya che eka surya bhase Ananta spatikeya che eka surya bhase Taiche jive govindera amshi prakashe Taiche jive govindera amsha prakashe Ananta spatikeya che eka surya bhase Bas Taiche jive govindera amsha prakashe Taichi jive govindera amsha prakashe Vaishnavis, please. Amsha prakashe Amsha prakashe Anyone else wants to practice one's Bengali? There's when Srila Govinda, Gaur Govinda Maharaj would chant verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita, he had this very special tune. You remember that? Do you remember the tune? No? It was a very special tune to such shlokas. Somehow I tried it, but I never learned it. This is very special, very sweet Bengali or Orisha style of chanting. So, reading word for word, Ananta, unlimited, Spatike, in crystals, Yaiche, just as, Eka, one, Surya, sun, Bhashe, appears, Taiche, just so, Jive, in the living entity, Govindera, of Govinda, Amsha, portion, Prakashe, manifests. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: as the one sun appears reflected in countless jewels, so Govinda manifests himself as the Paramatma in the hearts of all living beings. Purport: The sun is situated in a specific location but is reflected in countless jewels and appears in innumerable localized aspects. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although eternally present in His transcendental abode, Goloka Vrindavan, is reflected in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. In Upanishads it is said that the Jiva, living entity, and the Paramatma, Supersoul, are like two birds sitting in the same tree. The Supersoul engages the living being in executing fruitive work as a result of his deeds in the past, but the Paramatma has nothing to do with such engagements. As soon as the living being ceases to act in terms of fruitive work and takes to the service of the Lord, the Paramatma, coming to know of His supremacy, he is immediately freed from all designations, and in that pure state he enters the kingdom of God known as Vaikuntha. The Paramatma or Supersoul is the guide of the individual living beings, does not take part in fulfilling the desires of the living beings, but he arranges for their fulfillment by material nature. As soon as an individual soul becomes conscious of his eternal relationship with the Supersoul and looks only toward him, he at once becomes free from the entanglements of material enjoyment. Christian philosophers who do not believe in the law of karma put forward the argument that it is absurd to say that one must accept the results of past deeds of which he has no consciousness. A criminal is first reminded of his misdeeds by witnesses in a law court, and then he is punished. If death is complete forgetfulness, why should a person be punished for his past misdeeds? The conception of the Paramatma is an invincible answer to these fallacious arguments. The Paramatma is the witness of the past activities of the individual living being. A man may not remember what he has done in his childhood, but his father, who has seen him grow through different stages of development, certainly remembers. Similarly, the living being undergoes many changes of body through many lives, but the Supersoul is always with him and remembers all his activities despite his evolution through different bodies. In text 20, right? We're reading two verses today, 19 and 20, I was told. Athava bahunaitena kim gyatena tavarjuna vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam ekam shena sthito jagat. Translation: The Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna said, "What more shall I say to you? I live throughout the cosmic manifestation merely by my single plenary portion." Purport: Describing his own potencies to Arjuna, the Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna spoke this verse of the Bhagavad Gita 10:42. And the Srila Prabhupada quotes his own translation of the Bhagavad Gita 10:42. This is the last verse of the 10th chapter. And of course these two chapters, chapter 9 and chapter 10, they form the very core of the Bhagavad Gita. In the 9th chapter, Lord Krishna describes to Arjuna pure devotional service, and the Acharyas explain that this chapter 9 is like the hidden jewels or hidden treasure in a very nice ornamented box formed by two parts, the bottom part and the top part, just like the two shells or two halves of the jewel box. And when they open them up, inside there are jewels and innumerable riches. So these two parts of the Bhagavad Gita, chapters from 1 to 6 and chapters from 13 to 18, form, as the Acharyas explained, these two covers of the treasure inside the Bhagavad Gita. But the very core of the Bhagavad Gita is constituted by chapters 9 and 10, in which Krishna first describes pure devotional service and the way to access him by very simple ways of worshiping him, he says, Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachhati tadaham bhakti pahritam ashnami prayatat manaha. He says something very intimate. He says, if you offer me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, a water, anything that can be easily obtained. There is another verse in Narasimha Purana which sounds very, very similar, because it's spoken by the same person, Krishna. Also, Krishna, interestingly, to my knowledge, I may be wrong, but to my knowledge, that's the only verse, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam, which is the same both in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. There are different verses in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, but one verse at least that I am aware of is the same. Even though Srila Prabhupada in his Krishna book refers to the gopis extolling Krishna. Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita you said, even though Bhagavad Gita would be a bit later on, but as we now understand, the Bhagavad Gita is eternal science, so there is nothing that prevents gopis from knowing it even before Krishna spoke at the Kurukshetra battlefield. But the gopis refer to Krishna's own statements in the Bhagavad Gita. But that verse, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam Yomi Bhaktya Prayachhati Tadaham Bhakti Bhakritam Ashnami Prayatat Manaha, is spoken by Krishna both in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavatam, Krishna quotes that verse to whom? To the Sudama Brahmana. The Sudama Brahmana who comes and brings him the chipped rice, very, very, how would I say that? Inexpensive. Very simple offering of love. He was looking for an excuse to go and see Krishna, and his wife helped him by saying, oh yeah, you can go and see Krishna because we're very poor and there's nothing that I can even offer to you, my husband, by way of cooking and feeding you. There's nothing in the house. You don't even have enough clothes to clothe yourself, because all his clothes, however many, one or two he had, were all ragged and torn. And he was so skinny that his veins were visible through his skin, Brahman Sudama. But he was happy. And the wife wasn't happy though. But it was explained that she was not happy not because of her own dilapidated condition, but because of her husband. So she was unhappy for him. So she sent him to Krishna. Jai Shri Shri Radha Radhanath. As soon as narration of pure devotees is described, Krishna comes. He likes to hear about his pure devotees, especially such dear friends as Sudama, Vipra. Anyhow, I'm not going to narrate that story, but eventually she told him, please go and see Krishna and ask something, because he is your friend. As a friend, he will definitely offer you some gift. But Sudama Vipra said, I cannot go to him empty-handed, so I have to give him something. Because when you come to a guest, or you come to the deity as a guest in a temple, we're all guests here, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath, Srila Prabhupada would always teach us to bring something to them, anything, regardless of what it is, if it's valuable or not so valuable, or if it's opulent or simple, we have to bring something to Krishna, be it money or fruits or flowers or some rice or something, some offering to Krishna. And so he asked, I cannot go empty-handed, and the wife went to their neighbors and begged from them a loan of two mushtis, two handfuls of chipped rice. Very, very simple. In India, chipped rice is the most accessible type of food. It's very simple, it stores well and very cheap and not very tasty, unless you mix it with something else. Nothing, it's like rice flakes, but very tasteless, not very tasty. Right, so she had begged for 2 handfuls of chipped rice from the neighbors with a promise to return. and he went to Krishna, having tied up that offering in a corner of his cloth. So when he came to Krishna, he was embarrassed to give it to Krishna. He thought maybe Krishna won't remember, he won't know that I have brought him something so despicable, so simple. But Krishna, after offering opulent reception to Sudama Vipra, having put him on his bed, worshipping his feet and bathing his feet, and personally fanning him with chamara, and Rukmini Devi also took over the chamara and started fanning the poor Brahmana. Then Krishna said, my dear, after reminiscing on their old days, as we usually do when we meet our old friends, we usually remember what we did in our school days, and usually we were not up to good things in our school days. But anyway, that was become a very pleasurable subject of discussion. And then Krishna told Sudama, you must have brought something for me. You're a friend, right? So I know. I'm sure you must have forgotten. I never forgot, because Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Matak spritir gyanam apochanam cha. I remember, I know every single living entity. Sarvati chaham hridisani vishto, matak spritir gyanam apochanam cha. And he says, you must have forgotten. You brought something very nice to me, some nice gift, I'm sure. You, as a friend, I know you. You wouldn't have come empty-handed. And Brahman Sudama didn't know what to say in return. He was very embarrassed. He couldn't say no. I didn't bring anything to you, because he as a Brahmana, he's supposed to be very truthful. And Brahmanas should never lie. And he couldn't admit that he did bring something to Krishna, because what he brought in his eyes was so undeserving of Krishna's attention or his being offered to him. So he remained silent, and he tried to hide that not with chipped rice. But Krishna, from both sides, he has very long hands. Krishna's hands reach his knees, and they also can reach behind the back of his devotees if necessary. So he embraced, by way of catching that flat rice from his friend, Krishna actually embraced him. He embraced him even before when he met him, but then he embraced him again by trying to catch that rice, snatch it away from Brahmana. As much as Brahmana tried to hide it or prevent Krishna from getting it, Krishna got it. And then he untied in his anticipation. That's what Krishna does. That's why he's called Kari. Hari is because Krishna sometimes he accepts devotees' offerings before they're offered in his eagerness. Just like they say that a thief is, it's very important to give proper definitions to things. So a thief is someone who knows how to find things before they're lost. Yes, a thief. So there's nothing wrong in finding things. They'll be lost anyhow, sooner or later. So he knows how to find them before they're lost. So Krishna is Hari because, as a thief, also he knows how to get devotees to offer to him things before devotees develop a desire to offer them. Krishna somehow preempts devotees' desire to offer him something, and he steals what devotees haven't yet decided to offer to him. He steals it because he knows anyway he has to part with it, so why wait? I'll just take it before it's lost. That's how King Kulashekara glorifies Krishna in his Mukunda Mala Stotra. He says, Shri Valabeti Varadeti Daya Pareti Bhakta Priyeti Bhavalantana Kovideti Bhakteti Nagashayaneti Natхети Nagashayaneti Jagat Nivaseti Alapinam Pratidinam Kurumam Mukunda. He says, O Mukunda, please let me remember you in this way, thusly. I'll remember you, Shri Valabeti, as the husband of the goddess of fortune. I'll remember you as Shri Valabeti Varadeti, as the one who gives blessings to all of your devotees, even bypassing the goddess of fortune, because the goddess of fortune, she is very selective in who she gives her blessings to, and she puts up many conditions. But Krishna, understanding her exacting and very kind of demanding nature, sometimes he bypasses her and gives blessings to his devotees directly. Just like, who is that? Maharaja Prithu, when he was praying to the Lord. Then it's interesting how Prithu Maharaj, even though he was a king, and kings, they're supposed to be very steady-minded. They should know what they're talking about. They should know their line of thought and never deviate from it. They should be very, very cool-headed. But when he started praying to the Lord, somehow his cool-headedness betrayed him, and he couldn't maintain his composure in his line of thought. The train of thought was completely bewildered, and he would just jump from one subject to another, just like we're doing now in this class. And he started thinking about the lotus feet of the Lord, but then he thought, oh, there is one rival there at the lotus feet. It's Lakshmi Devi, and I want to worship the lotus feet of the Lord, but she's there already, and she thinks it's her rightful property. So when I try to worship the feet of the Lord, she will object, and she will create obstacles probably. So he starts telling the Lord, my Lord, I want to worship your lotus feet, but there is someone there already, Lakshmi Devi. So when I try to do that, there'll be an argument between her and me. So, but you do not need Lakshmi Devi, right? You are self-sufficient. So when there is rivalry between her and me, please take my side. Very illogical, because why should he take his side if he doesn't need Lakshmi Devi? So he might by the same token, might not him as well, but there is no logic in devotees, sometimes devotees' prayers to him. So King Kulakshetra says, Varada, you are the giver of benedictions to his devotees. Shiva Labdeti Varadeti Dayapareti, you're Dayapara, you're the most merciful. In other words, you give only those blessings that actually benefit your devotees. Sometimes devotees pray to you for so many things, but out of not out of your callousness or out of your indifference to devotees. No, it's out of your mercy that you ignore some of their requests, and you do not respond to their prayers, sometimes out of your mercy to them, because you're not responding to them sometimes is a louder message than your response. Right? Sometimes devotees complain that I pray to Krishna and he doesn't respond. When I serve him, he doesn't show any particular inclination towards me. What's the matter? What's wrong? And once Niranjana Maharaj explained what's wrong, there's nothing wrong. It's just Krishna chose to communicate to you by his silence something that you fail to hear when he speaks to you directly through the Bhagavad Gita or through the Bhagavatam or through the mouth of the spiritual master. Sometimes as a friend, if a friend is offended by us, and when you try to approach him and he doesn't respond to what you tell him or her, that's something that's quite telling. It's called. It's very loud silence. So Krishna sometimes Dayapara in his desire to bless his devotees, he doesn't respond to them deliberately. And he says that in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he tells the gopis, sometimes I don't respond to my devotees, so I could stoke their desire to serve me even more. So Dayapara, Bhakta Priyeti Bhavalunta Kovidati, and he singles out his devotees out of all people who approach him, Bhakta Priyeti. And Bhavalunta Kovidati, that's what I was leading to, that he is very expert. Krishna is very expert in looting or stealing the material existence of his devotees. And an expert thief is someone who does his thievery in such a way that the longer it goes unnoticed, the better. So when the theft is discovered, maybe the statutory term is already elapsed. Maybe he is not guilty any longer. He is not going to be judged adjudicated in the court of law, right? So Krishna, he has that way of stealing his devotees' material existence in such a way that devotees at first don't notice it was there, but then disappeared. But then they don't mind. Okay, it's too late. No, I don't know. I'll ask you if you have ever gone through such theft. I went once. Discovered it was missing, and it was too late. And it was too late to lament about it too. So that's how Krishna steals his devotees' material existence. So Krishna tells Brahmana Sudama, oh, that's exactly what I always wanted. Nobody gives me this kind of delicacies here in this palace. Rukmini, take note. Rukmini, and Krishna took a whole handful of that. You know, it's not what you call in English, in Hindi, I guess it's, what's that preparation's name? Poa, yeah, yes, poa. It's poa. The least favorite food I ever eat. No, I don't like poa. Because basically you eat what's added to that, not the rice flakes themselves. Anyhow, but that's not that wasn't even poa. It was make it yourself kind of thing, you know. Right? You don't. It's dry, unsoaked, unwashed. It's traveled through India in that dirty cloth, and then all of a sudden Krishna takes it and he eats one handful, chews it and swallows, and Rukmini is in complete anxiety, distress because of that. And Krishna is motioning for the second helping of it. And Rukmini catches his hand and she says, no, Krishna, please leave us some, because if you like it so much, we have to know the recipe. We have to know how to make it. If you eat it all, so we won't know how to prepare it if you like it so much, so leave us some. That's what she, remember, interesting, Rukmini comes up, I think already for the third time in our discussions, because she, as we mentioned on the 6th of April, she is a Kshatriya lady, so she, as a Kshatriya lady, she manifests a transcendental character of being very political. And Kshatriyas, they are taught how to say one thing, mean another thing, and do the third thing. And she was engaged in not a double talk, but triple talk. She said to Krishna, Krishna, give us some because you like it so much, so I'll prepare that for you. And we can prepare it every single day if you like it so much. So no problem, just leave us some. Then she motioned to the maidservants. She made a gesture saying, take it away as soon as possible, because if a Krishna takes one more handful of cheap rice, then it will upset his tender stomach. But inside her mind, she says something else to herself. She thought, if Krishna eats another handful of that, even for that first handful, I am already obliged to give that poor Brahmana the riches of Indra, because Krishna ate it. But if he eats another handful, then I'll run out of ways to remunerate him for that, and I'll have to leave Krishna and become a maidservant of the Brahmana. I don't want to do that. So, and that's why she took it away, or made it taken away hurriedly by the maidservants. And then Krishna, what did he give to Brahmana in exchange for that wonderful offering? What did he give? Huh? No, he didn't give anything. Later on, yes, later on, you're right. But he didn't tell him anything, he didn't offer anything in exchange. And that was the greatest source of happiness for the Brahmana. Because the Brahmana thought, oh, Krishna is such a wonderful friend. On the way back, he said, how does it go? He says, Krishna, Paham Daridra Papiyan. Who am I? I am Daridra, a poor Papiyan, sinful Brahmana. Must be sinful because I'm poor. So it comes as the result of my sins, not as a result of my austerities or piety. As a result of my sins, I'm so poor. Daridra Papiyan. Kva Krishna? Sri Caitanya. And who is Krishna? Krishna is Sri Caitanya. He is the abode of the goddess of fortune, Caitanya. Caitanya means abode, residence, Sri Caitanya. He is the abode of the goddess of fortune. But somehow he embraced me with his hands, Bahubir Parirambita, something like that, he says. Krishna very tightly embraced me and pressed me against the chest on which the goddess of fortune resides. How does it go? How does it happen? So he was thinking about how nice Krishna is as a friend, because he didn't give me anything in return for my service to him. That's what devotees fear sometimes when they think that when they see that Krishna has reciprocated with their service and gave him and given them something, that they become upset because they think, oh, Krishna must have detected some selfishness in my heart. And having detected that, he gave me what I actually wanted. Like Dhruva Maharaj also, he was very upset when Krishna offered him in return for his austerities, celestial or the heavenly planet, or transcendental actual abode, and that royal opulence for 36,000 years. And also revenge, he offered him revenge on his brother, stepbrother and his stepmother. And Dhruva Maharaj became very upset because he thought, Krishna must have detected something that I tried to hide from him. And he fulfilled those desires. And he must have thought of me as a hypocrite, because I told him about pure devotional service and this and that I don't want to do anything, I don't want to have anything from you, but then he gave me the fulfillment of my material desires. So he must have detected some hypocrisy in me. So when Krishna doesn't give anything to his devotees are very happy. And in fact, as a matter of fact, they ask for it. When Narasimhadev offered Prahlada Maharaj any boon of his choice, Prahlada Maharaj told him, first he said, please don't try to seduce me with your offerings of boons, because my father was very materialistic and he wanted boons from Brahma, and I am like father, like son, as we read yesterday. I will also be very easily seduced by your offerings, so please do not do that, and just keep it organic, keep it simple. I'm your servant, you're my master, okay? Nothing else, just keep it like that. Okay, he told Narasimhadev. And then, but because Narasimhadev insisted on, he said, okay, you don't need it, but I need it. I need to give you something. It's my desire, not yours. So fulfill my desire and select something from me. And Prahlada Maharaj said, okay, if you insist, if you so desire the Lord, Yadi dasyasi me kaman varamstvam varatar shabam, kamanam hridya samruham bhavatastu hurinevaram. If you so desire, O best of givers of boons, then I choose one boon from you. Please bless me to never ask boons from you. How do you like that? Krishna, it's like catch-22, as they say in English. It's a very difficult situation, because now what does the Lord do? Does he fulfill that request of Prahlada Maharaj or not? Okay, if you want me to ask something from you, I ask you to bless me to never ask anything from you. It's only devotees can do these tricks with Krishna, right? So that's patram pushpam palam toyam. So when Krishna took that handful of rice from Sudama Vipra, he quoted patram pushpam palam toyam yame bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktya pahritam ashnami prayatat manaha. I really like when devotees offered something to me with no strings attached, just to please me. What was Mataji Krishan-Giradi? She spoke the day before in her class. I really like the point she made about how we can worship Krishna on different levels. To offer him pizza because we like pizza, or to offer him something that because we have to do it as a way of offering our efforts to him and purifying our food, so it becomes prasadam. Basically treat Krishna as a prasadam making machine. Right? And then the third level is to try and offer to Krishna something that he likes to eat. And on that level, Krishna is in for many surprises, because sometimes devotees take it upon themselves to decide what Krishna likes to eat, and Krishna has to comply. Just like Vidura, in his ecstasy of love, he fed Krishna what? Those skins, banana skins. Not even banana, because those banana skins are a little palatable, but these plantain bananas, those vegetable bananas, right, they're completely tasteless, be it the core or the skin. And so Vidura was feeding Krishna with those skins. There is a verse actually in Padhyavali of Srila Rupa Goswami, and he says, "My dear Lord, just like with the same relish that you ate the banana skins of Vidura and the chipped rice of Sudama and the breast milk of the gopis and the butter you stole from their houses," and then he lists a few more delicacies on the list. "With the same relish, please accept what I offer to you on the altar." That's a mantra to offer. Or Prabhupada once in his class gave another mantra to offer to Krishna. It's one of the classes, and that was the last thing he said in the class. He said, "Always remember you're dealing with Krishna. So when you offer to him, we understand that Krishna doesn't need it, you need it to offer it to him." And he started saying, "My dear Krishna, I'm so wretched, I'm so rotten," Prabhupada said. "I'm so useless, but I have brought this thing to you, please accept." And then he starts crying. He breaks down, his voice breaks down, and he starts crying. You can hear him cry. And then Prabhupada pauses for a second, and then he regains his composure, and he says, "You're dealing with Krishna, always remember that." Like that. Hare Krishna, he says. That was the end of the class. So Krishna says, I really like when devotees offer something to me with pure hearts. Patram pushpam palam toyam yume bhaktya prayach khati. With bhakti, tadaham bhakti upahritam, something which is very generously saturated with the devotee's love, just like ghee. When you pour ghee over something, it becomes very palatable. Anything becomes palatable with ghee and sugar, basically. You can offer anything. And then he says, Prayatatmanaha, devotees offer to me whatever they offer in a very clean state. Then I eat it personally. So that's the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And then the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna how one should remember Krishna. On his request, on Arjuna's request, Krishna starts telling him how he should remember him in different features, even of this world. He tells him how he manifests his opulences in different manifestations of this world. And then he concludes the 10th chapter by that verse, which Prabhupada quotes in his purport on the 20th chapter, on the 20th verse. He says, "Adhava bahudaitina him gyatena tavarjuna vistabhyam idam kritsnam ekam shena sthito jagat." But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself I pervade and support this entire universe. So these two verses, now we have come back to Chaitanya Charitamrita. These two verses, of course, they explain the divinity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada had a dilemma when he had to choose between Chaitanya Bhagavat and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he couldn't choose, he couldn't select one of the two for translation. Actually, one of his well-wishers and members of ISKCON, life members of ISKCON, asked Prabhupada in Calcutta to translate Chaitanya Bhagavata or Chaitanya Charitamrita, something about Lord Chaitanya. And Prabhupada was of double minds. He didn't know, at least this is the way it was presented. Prabhupada would always know, of course, but the way he presented it, he said, I don't know which one to translate, Chaitanya Bhagavata or Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he had two disciples, Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Bhavananda Maharaj, who were like his right and left hand in his preaching in Kolkata. And as a right and left hand, they would sometimes have, oftentimes, always have different opinions. And they would always argue. So he asked them, which one should I translate, Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavat? And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, Chaitanya Bhagavat, from what I remember. And Bhavananda Maharaj, because Tamal Krishna Maharaj said Chaitanya Bhagavat, not that he knew which one was better, but he said Chaitanya Charitamrita. And basically Prabhupada was back to square one. And he thought for a second and said, okay, because Chaitanya Charitamrita has more philosophy. And I'll give that. And when we can read, especially the first part of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, has so much philosophy, especially the 2nd chapter, and 3rd chapter, and 4th chapter, and 5th chapter. 5th chapter of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda is described in the 5th chapter of Adi Lila. So much philosophy. It's important. this philosophy described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami forms just like, it's a good example, just like you have these wonderful paintings. These paintings are painted on a canvas or some kind of support, some fabric, and then you have paints that are sprayed or printed on, plotted on the fabric by artist or by machine. But without that support, the paint won't have any support. It will be baseless. It won't be able to form the picture, that image in our minds. In the same way, and of course, no one praises the canvas. Once the painting is done, everyone praises the painting, not the canvas. In the same way, that philosophy that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami spent so much time describing to us in minute details, re-narrating Sri Caitanya, Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, so many Upanishads and the Shastra, forms that canvas for us to then admire and take in and revel in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. We should know who Lord Chaitanya is. Even though Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't want that to be known, sometimes when devotees would refer to him as Vishnu, Krishna, he would block his ears and he would chant Vishnu, 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 Vishnu. He didn't want to be seen as the Lord. And sometimes when his devotees would continue describing his pastimes or his divinity, blocking his own ears was not enough. He would block their mouth. As was the case with Ramananda Rai. He blocked his mouth. I said, no, don't say anything anymore, because it shouldn't be heard or shouldn't be discussed, too confidential. Krishna Varnam Tisha Krishnam Sangopan Gastra Parshadam Yagya Sankirtana Prayara Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. Krishna Varnam, as it is explained by Srila Prabhupada, quoting Jiva Goswami, Krishna Varnam in that famous verse in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam refers to Lord Chaitanya in different ways. Krishna Varnam means someone whose name has these two syllables, Krishna, Krishna Varnam. That's why he's called Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Interesting that the name of our movement, what's the name of our movement? International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Krishna Consciousness, if you translate it into Sanskrit, will be Sri Krishna Chaitanya. It's samasa, Krishna Chaitanya. Chaitanya means Chetana, the life force. And that's what is invested in Krishna, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. That's Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's name. So our movement bears the name of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, translated into English, Krishna Chaitanya. And Krishna says, of course, in the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that of all living entities, I am Chetana, I am that consciousness. Right? So, Krishna Varnam, Krishna, Lord Chaitanya has these two syllables in his name, Krishna Varnam, he is called Krishna. Then by his Varna, he is also Krishna. Means that he belongs to the category of Krishna. Krishna belongs to that Varna of Krishna. Means the category, the grouping. And Lord Chaitanya belongs to the same category. That's another translation, Krishna Varnam, Tvisha Krishnam. And then another translation, Krishna Varnam, is Krishna Varna, it is someone who always chants Krishna. That's another translation. But that's not enough. Varna is a very special verb in Sanskrit. It's a 10th class verb. In 10th class verb, they have causative, I'm sorry for a little bit of a detour into Sanskrit grammar, but they have causative form, which means causing someone else to do that. And the form is the same as the form for describing what the person does himself. So Lord Chaitanya, when he chants Krishna's name, Krishna Varna also means he causes others to chant Krishna's name. So whoever he sees, whoever see him, whoever hear about him, whoever get in touch with him, whoever worship him on the altar, Drishta, Sprishta, Kirtita, Samsritova, Durastara, Pyanutova, Dritova. There is a verse by Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur. No matter how we get in touch with Lord Chaitanya, you'll invariably chant Krishna's names. And the last two very confidential meanings of this samasa, Krishna Varnam, means sometimes he reveals himself to his devotees as Krishna. Krishna Varna. Varna it means he reveals himself as Krishna to Ramananda Rai, to Swarupadam, to Sarambam Bhattacharya, to other devotees. He would reveal himself as Krishna. And also the most intense meaning of that epithet of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna Varna, means that his devotees have that ability to manifest him as Krishna to others by preaching about him, like that. So that's Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that's his Paramatma feature. We haven't spoken about it, unfortunately. Haven't gotten to that point yet. But I think if I may add one more last thing is that Srila Prabhupada speaks about, in his purport, about the Lord as the Super Soul, as Paramatma. Of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would manifest himself as the Super Soul by knowing exactly what his devotees felt, what they thought, what they desired. Sometimes he manifested that feature of him as Paramatma to chastise his devotees, like he did with Chhota Haridas. Or sometimes he would manifest it to reciprocate with their service, like he did in case of some of his devotees who he inhabited. Basically, he entered their hearts and entered their bodies, like was Nakul Brahmachari, who manifested Lord Chaitanya's presence and became not Shakti Vesha, but Bhagavata Vesha. Such devotees like Nakula Brahmachari become Bhagavata Veshas. They actually imbibe or retain or keep Lord Chaitanya's presence in their hearts, and whoever gets in touch with them gets the same benefit as he would have gotten by getting in touch with Lord Chaitanya himself. And the best example, of course, for us to meditate on as an external manifestation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Paramatma is Srila Prabhupada. And he would manifest that uncanny ability to see through the thoughts and motives and external actions of his disciples. Just one example, I really like that example, Subhag Maharaj. Does he ever come here, or did he come here before, Subhag Swami? A disciple of Srila Prabhupada, a very saintly devotee, who is like a cowherd boy. He's already 80-something years old, but he's so jovial and very youthful in his preaching and behavior and demeanor. And he's a Bengali devotee from Bengal. So when he first met Srila Prabhupada, I think it was in Mayapur, as a young Bengali, and Prabhupada would take very keen interest in preaching to Indians, because Indians were not flocking to ISKCON, to say the least, at that time, when he started preaching in India. Prabhupada would complain about Indians not joining ISKCON. So he came, a very educated Bengali gentleman, young man, and Prabhupada started asking him very cordially, "Oh, where are you from?" And Subhag, at that time, not yet initiated, not yet a devotee of Prabhupada, he knew, because Bengali is a very hierarchical, and depending on where you live in Calcutta, that determines your social rank. And he lived in a nice neighborhood, but the neighborhood across the road from that neighborhood was even better. So instead of saying his actual, mentioning his actual residence, he extended a little bit his residence onto that next neighborhood, and he named that neighborhood across the road as his residence to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, "Oh, yeah, I know that neighborhood. Very nice, very good." And then he continued his discussion, and then all of a sudden the subject turned on to how the spiritual master is the external manifestation of Paramatma. And he said, one should never lie to the spiritual master. And he looked at Subhag. One should never lie. And Subhag thought in his mind, that was a small lie, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, even a small lie. Like that. So Krishna concludes his instruction, actually Uddhava concludes his discussions with Krishna in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam by saying that Naiva payatya pachitim kavayastavesha brahma yushapi krita rida mudam sravan samarantah yantar bahir tanubritam ashubik vidunan acharya charya vapusha svagatim yanakti. He says, my dear Lord, even if great munis, great sages and brahmanas and rishis, even if they continue glorifying you or thanking you for the entire existence of Lord Brahma, for as long as Lord Brahma lives, if they continue glorifying you and thanking you for one thing only, for you manifesting in two features, as the Chaitya Guru inside the heart and as a spiritual master externally, they will never be able to exhaust their gratitude to you and express it properly. So, reading these descriptions of Lord Chaitanya as Paramatma, we can remember many things, but one of the things we can remember, be grateful to him for, is for manifesting himself as a spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and those who represent him purely, for serving as external representations of Paramatma in our hearts, in our lives, and giving us very clear and unmistakable instructions that we can follow. This is how Prabhupada explained a qualification to see the Lord face to face. There was one disciple of Prabhupada who preached to the youth in some universities, very educated background, and he came back to Prabhupada once in New Vrindavan, and he started telling him about his preaching exploits, achievements. And he said that these intellectuals, they're so materialistic, they think they don't need the spiritual master to speak with the Lord. The Lord is everywhere, according to your scriptures. He is a Paramatma in everyone's heart, so we can speak to him directly. And he mentioned it by way of kind of criticizing that, look how foolish these people are, to Prabhupada. Prabhupada didn't take it for an answer. He said, so what did he tell them? What did you tell them? Did you tell them who Krishna speaks with? No. Who does Krishna speak? No, explain to me who Krishna speaks with. And devotee was completely flustered and he didn't know what to say. Prabhupada started not just drilling, but as Niranjana Maharaj said, like jackhammering him with his questions. Did you tell him? You don't know. You don't know yourself. That's why you're an accomplice to them. You also think that you can speak with Krishna directly without the spiritual master. And he was really drilling and grilling him and for his failure to give the proper answer. Explain. And he failed to explain, and he said, you explain to all your disciples, you explain to him who speaks with Krishna, who Krishna speaks with. He managed to extract that right answer. That's only someone who is trained by the spiritual master and follows his instructions properly. Then Paramatma will reveal himself to such a devotee, and he will guide that devotee even when the spiritual master passes away from this world. Prabhupada explains in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. When a devotee is very faithful to the instructions of his or her spiritual master during his lifetime, then when the spiritual master leaves this world, Paramatma takes over. Then you can rely on Paramatma's guidance, because Paramatma is now pleased with how you followed him in his external feature, and then he will guide you from within the heart. And please forgive me, dear devotees, it's already, I don't even want to say how much it is. And I have no time for questions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantara Sri Caitanya caritamrta ki jai, Gaura Premanande.